probably around about the age of 40 years of age. I think I woke up one morning and my outlook on life had really changed. I think that, having spent over 15 years studying philosophy, theology, applied psychology, all the different schools of thought, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, I teach coaching, cognitive psychology, mindfulness. I've spent 15 years studying and practicing all this stuff. I woke up one morning just to realize that the more I've come to learn and know over the years, the main takeaway is that I just appreciate how little I actually know and understand. Right? I still don't understand today the reasons why I act and behave and respond in the ways in which I do sometimes. This isn't to say that I'm not looking in this direction and I'm asking questions, because I am, but what I'm saying is I still surprise myself. And this is kind of what happens as we commit to this journey of growing in self-awareness which precedes all personal growth and mental wellness. Right? We will not experience mental wellness or personal growth apart from through becoming more aware of ourselves. So that's the introduction officially over. Now I want to present you with the basic NLP Communications Model. Now there have been over the years a number of different ways that this has been presented. The way that it was first taught to me is very different from the way in which I want to share it with you. Reason being is because NLP has a bit of a reputation for using all sorts of abstract, complex terminologies. And when I first started engaging in NLP trainings, I think the first NLP practitioner course I ever went through, I ended up leaving the course more confused than what I was when I initially went onto it. So that is not my intention for you. If it seems like I'm simplifying these concepts, it's because I am, not to dumb them down and certainly not to undermine you, but to present them in the simplest way that's going to enable you to understand them. Life doesn't have to be so complex. Granted, many aspects of society, especially advanced education, academia, land, many people develop this mindset that unless something is totally confusing, completely complex, then it's valueless. Well, having taught these various helping disciplines and life sciences for close to a decade now, what I've come to appreciate is that when a teacher communicates concepts or notions in a way that just absolutely confuses students, this isn't because the subject matter within itself is complex, it's because teacher doesn't understand subject matter for his or herself. So if I'm communicating in a simplified way, it's because I understand it and I want you to understand it as well. All right, I've generated some phenomenal results in my life that I'm hoping I'm able to help other people to, get started and starting to accomplish as well. All right, so this basic NLP communications model, this allows us to understand how it is that we interpret the outside world. Because we have the inner game, i.e. everything that happens inside of us, our thoughts, our opinions, our worldviews, our values, our beliefs, all these kinds of things. And then we have all the stuff outside in the big bad world that happens to us. So all the stuff that goes on in the big bad world outside of us, we have no control over. Many people don't understand, because they haven't been educated in this, that we actually have complete control over how it is that we respond to all of the external stuff. Now, this isn't a common education, it's not. So I'm going to break this down so you understand it. You see where I'm coming from. But first things first, let's look at the world, right? Because we're all operating here in present state all of the time. Some people get a little bit transfixed and overly focused on desire, and whilst it's good to have a future vision, we can never afford to take our eyes off the prize and be grounded in where we're at today in present state. So it's good that we're not just primarily focused on present state, that we are aware of present state, but more focused on desired state, so we can make wise decisions about how we choose to react or respond today to the circumstances and situations that we face in the big bad world. So the big bad world's going on. There are wars, there are political debates, there are pandemics, there is economic crisis. And there's all these things going on. There's crime, there's mass shootings. The human race has the capacity to do some phenomenal things, some great things, and the human race also has the capacity to do some heartless, compassionless, evil, wicked things. And how we interpret the world determines what it is that we essentially go on to do. Right? It's not that people are inherently good or bad. It's just people do good things. Some people do good things and some people do bad things. And it's based upon their worldview and their outlook on life. Now, it might be the case that you're kind of struggling to understand this. Well, of course you're struggling to understand this if you are, because the only perspective and outlook on life that you understand and appreciate is your own. And I've never met anyone who goes through life saying, you know what, my motivations, my intentions are really, really bad. To help you understand just a little bit how it is that we relate with most people is we go through life in present state, doing our best, right? It's not like we wake up in the morning hoping to offend people or damage anything or break anything. It's not like we go through life looking to undermine people, but yet we sometimes do. But what happens when people say or do things to us that we don't like? 9 times out of 10, we will judge people by their words, the words they say, and by their actions or by their behaviours, right? It's common, most of us do this. But if you were to be honest, how much do you like it when other people decide that you're either good or bad in response to the things that you say and do? If you think about it, how it is that we want to be understood? We want to be understood for our intentions. So we ourselves, we take offence and we don't like it when people label us as being good or bad, right or wrong when we say and do things. But yet, more often than not, we don't have a problem defining other people as being good or bad when they say and do things. We want to be understood for our intentions, and this happens when someone accuses us of something or makes an assumption of us. We say, no, that's not what I meant. We automatically defend our intentions, don't we? But we're very, very rarely willing to extend anyone else that degree of grace. All right? It's just human nature. It's just the nature of the beast. So when we become more aware of this, we can start to manage ourselves just a little bit better. Why? For the purposes of remaining connected with those people that we care about, personally, intimately, socially, professionally, because the quality and the calibre of our life will always be influenced by the quality and the calibre and the depth of the relationships that we keep. And if we're not aware that there's a big difference between a person's intentions and a person's actions, then we might not know why it is that some of our relationships end up kind of going south at the rate in which they do. So what I'm saying is we go through life. We experience life through our 5 main senses. Now, NLP has some terms that it uses to define how it is that we experience life. We experience life visually. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? So we go through life experiencing life auditory, right? Where we hear stuff. Are you hearing me right now? Are you hearing me? Are you seeing me? Are you hearing me? Are you starting to get a feel for what I'm talking about? If you're starting to get a feel for what I'm talking about, then your kinesthetic representational system is now coming into play. How about if I was to say, are you smelling me right now? Are you smelling me right now? Well, that's a bit of a weird thing to say, isn't it? How about, are you tasting me right now? Are you tasting me right now? Again, that's a little bit weird, isn't it? All right. So this is the gustatory and olfactory, which is taste and smell. But there's still 2 of the representational systems through which we experience life. So we experience our outside world through our representational systems. Visually, auditory, gustatory, olfactory, kinesthetic, which is through sight, through hearing, through smell, through taste, and through sensing. All right? Now, most people will operate out of 1 or 2 primary representational modalities, systems, which means that, say for example, you have 2 people sitting in a classroom. There's going to be one person who's really watching and observing to get a feel for what I'm saying, and then you're going to have someone else who's really listening so they can hear what I'm saying. Now, I don't know if you're able to identify the difference. What I'm saying is we all experience life differently, which is why you could put 2 people, stand at the same spot, have them watch and experience a car crash or a catastrophe or something like this. And then if the police were to interview both people, 9 times out of 10, they'll end up getting completely different accounts. And of course they're going to have completely different accounts, because how we interpret life and our experiences filters through not just our five senses, but our worldviews, our attitudes, our self-awareness, the accuracy of our observation, all these sorts of things. So we live life primarily from a place of perception. And what this means is that many people do not appreciate the difference between their perception and reality. Some people think that how they perceive life is how life is. Have you ever thought that a person had a certain thing against you only to receive a bit more information and then you had to backtrack? So you just put two and two together, came up with like 172, and you end up falling out with someone, having an argument with someone, and then you are presented with a bit more information and then you realise, I've just made a complete arse of myself here. You've got to backtrack. If you're humble, you go and apologise and you ask for forgiveness for jumping to an incorrect assumption. Well, this is essentially what we all do. When we're responding to all of our external experiences, we're either looking through the filter of truth, we're looking objectively, for the purpose of understanding what's actually going on. And when we're looking to understand what's going on, we ask questions. When we don't want to understand what's going on, we agree, we disagree, we label things as being right, wrong, good or bad. All right? So there's two different approaches we can take towards life. We can take the mindless approach, agree, disagree, like, dislike, good, bad, or we can take the wise approach, which involves us asking questions, sometimes not just of ourselves, but of other people, so we can understand exactly what's going on and live life from more of an objective standpoint. With me? Now you might be wondering why all of this is relevant. Well, you're doing this, you're living in the state all of the time, all day, every day, from the minute you open your eyes in the morning to the minute you close your eyes in the night time, whether you're aware of it or whether you're not. Now, going back around 100 or so years ago, a gentleman named Mr. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalytical psychology, he proposes a difference between the conscious mind, that which we're aware of, and the unconscious mind, that which we're unaware of. And to help you distinguish between the two right now, if I was to ask you what you had for breakfast this morning, it's a good chance you could respond. You might have to think back for a few moments and then, I had a bowl of Weetabix, or I had a bacon roll, or I had a slice of melon, or something like that. But if I was to ask you why it is that you take a certain attitude to certain types of people, then what would you say? How aware are you of what really makes you tick on an unconscious level? So I'm not giving you so many answers here. I'm just getting you to look at yourself a little bit more thoroughly. Because essentially it's through our representational system modalities. All right, our filter system is everything that happens within. And this is essentially what makes up our unconscious mind. All right, our values, it's our priorities, the things we appreciate about life, the things that we don't appreciate about life. Priorities are interesting things because we generally only prioritize that which we perceive ourselves as not having in life. So if you've ever encountered a person who seemed to be in a really, really desperate, panicky, stressed out state, it's only because they are struggling to meet one of their values that they perceive as being a priority in their life. For example, meeting a deadline, getting an intimate relationship, getting a new job, something like this. Many people go through life confused or not fully appreciating the difference between needs and wants. All right, it's common to interact with people and they say, oh, I just really need a new job, or I really need more money, I need this, I'm really stressed out because I need more of this, I need more of that. And the difference between needs and wants is needs are essentially what we need to sustain our life, right? The basic needs that we each have: food, water, clothing, shelter, warmth. This is essentially what we need to survive. Everything outside of that is actually just a preference, all right? An intimate relationship, the next promotion, another £1 million in the bank, your name and the lights in Broadway. It's all preferential. You want to write a book. You want to be in a movie. You want to be a movie star. You want to get a job. You want some respect. You want to be noticed. You want to be appreciated. You want this. You want that. It's, when we learn how to put down our wants, we become significantly more appreciative that we already have everything in life that we need, which again is a huge shift in perspective for many, many people, right? Have I mentioned that playing the game of life isn't so much about, turning up and, playing our best in the outside world? Playing the game of life effectively actually involves us getting our own house in order and learning how to manage and regulate ourselves. Because as I mentioned, whilst we have no control over that which happens outside of us, we can't control whether we get picked or whether they like us or whether they don't like us. We can't control whether other people assume the worst of us or seek to understand us. But we can control how it is that we respond. All right? By becoming more aware of the extent of the options that we have. This is essentially grounded in self-awareness. But the problem is, we have memories from the past. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. And if we are in present state defining ourselves by positive memories, we might end up operating from a place of over-enhanced ego. If we find ourselves in a place of life defining ourselves by negative memories, I failed, this happened to me, mummy never loved me, daddy never gave me the cuddles that I wanted, therefore I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. We define ourselves and undermine ourselves again today in present state. Are you with me? You see how all of this ties in now? It's really important stuff. Have you ever heard the saying that whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. You've already made up your mind. Whether you believe that you can grow and go on to construct a meaningful future for yourself or whether you don't, you've already decided. It's no one else's responsibility in the world to encourage or provoke you to want more for yourself. Your life is essentially your responsibility. I am responsible for the choices, for the decisions that I make. I alone am responsible for my mental well-being, for my emotional self-regulation, for the goals that I pursue, for the way in which I respond to other people. Not you. You're not responsible for me. I'm not responsible for you. It's one thing becoming knowledgeable. We can become knowledgeable when we just embrace some new information. But growing in information is different from growing in understanding. Understanding is different from just getting some information in our head. We grow in understanding when we can relate to a concept that's being shared with us, and then we can see how it is that it might be relevant or how we can apply it in the context of our day-to-day life. So all of this goes on in our unconscious mind. So what? I'm hearing you ask. Well, thanks for asking. Because what happens then is the mind only has the capacity to focus on one thing at any one moment in time. Even those people who say they're good multitaskers, multitasking is not possible because at any one given moment in time, you can only direct your attention towards one single thing. Doesn't matter what it is, okay? So if we're focused on how we feel, then what are we focused on? How we feel. If we're focused on changing the world, then what are we focused on? Changing the world. If we're focused on how stressed out we're feeling right now because we're running late, then what are we focused on? How stressed we are because we're running late and how are we going to feel? Stressed, and so on and so forth. All right? So becoming emotionally stable, becoming grounded in life, is about us becoming educated of ourselves. That makes sense. Inside of our mind, generalizations happen, distortions happen, deletions happen. Why? Because we're simply not perfect. We miss stuff. Now, when we're focused in one direction, we stand to potentially miss what's being said or what's going on in a different direction. So what are generalizations? Well, think about this. Have you ever caught yourself making a statement, something like, oh, politicians are bad, all religious people are bad, all football supporters of this team are bad, all men are bad, all women are bad, all whatever. Remember in the army, I spent, as I mentioned, 10 years in the military, And I remember walking into a bar, must have been about 20 years old. And this was the first time going into this bar in this military city that I was kind of living in at the time. Walked into the bar, and it was kind of like getting a hero's welcome. There was lots of ladies there. I thought, oh, soldiers! And I thought, oh, fantastic! This is absolutely great. All right, why? Because this positive generalization had been made of all soldiers, which means that at some point in the past, these ladies had had a good experience with soldiers. Maybe they were witty, charming, who knows, all right? But their experience had now just been transferred over onto me through generalization, which was fantastic. I certainly wasn't complaining. But what we do is we can obviously turn this on its head and frame it in a negative as well. If, for example, we had an experience with a father figure role model that wasn't positive, then we can end up saying, men can't be trusted. All old men can't be trusted. All men are bad. Men are this, or likewise, women are, or politicians are, or religious people are, or something like this. We end up categorizing and essentially assigning the negative traits from one person over onto anyone who we perceive as being similar to, if that makes sense. So we do this. Generalizing is the means through which we make assumptions of people. We judge people. In the same way that we don't like being judged and have assumptions made of us, other people don't like it either. And whilst we are very rarely aware of the assumptions and judgments that we make of other people, we're always aware of the judgments and assumptions that other people make towards us. Why? Because it's only when we experience judgment or assumption that we experience then the emotion that accompanies the frustration of being judged. But we can't experience other people's emotion, which means that we can now either choose to take responsibility for managing and regulating our thought processes or we won't. So distortions, simply when we, let's say, look at 2 and 2, put 2 and 2 together, come up with 173. So John and Peter were having a conversation. John looked at Peter in a certain way, which means that either John's a really bad person or it really means that Peter's a bad person. And we start assigning our own meaning and interpretation onto things that might seem valid from our perspective, from our version of reality, but might not be true in actuality. It's when we really start becoming a little bit deceived. We start deceiving ourselves through distortions. Deletions when we simply forget things. Think about it. Think about the last argument you had. If you have someone in your life right now that you're really frustrated by, I guarantee you that you can remember all of the bad things that this other person said and done to you, but I bet you might not be so quick to remember all of the nasty things that you might have said and done towards this other person, or how this other person might have received you. Why? Because we can only experience our own emotional state, which means we can only relate to our own state. Our own state today is essentially present state. With me? So essentially we go through all of this. How we interpret the world through our representational systems, then has to go through all of this. Values, attitude, the language that we use with ourselves, with other people, how aware we are, our memories, priorities, beliefs, biases. And then we have this kind of filtering system going on. There's generalizations being made, there's distortions, we're warping things that we then forget convenient bits of information, usually in favor of ourselves. And then we act, or we respond, or we behave, or we communicate, or something like this. And this is what essentially generates the outputs and the results of our life. So, why is this relevant? Because if you understand this model, what you are hopefully able to see on some level is that you, and you alone, are responsible for determining the outputs of your life.